Hey guys, it's time for 15-minute feedback. So just in case you don't know what that is, it's for our Inner Circle members. And once a month, I do a deep dive with one of our members. I answer their one burning question, that thing that's keeping them up at night. And then I leave them with 3 things that I think that they could do that will give them the best results fastest. And so come with me. We're going to talk about Marjorie. She has been a member since more than a year, I think. And she's very active. She's very helpful. And so I'm thanking her now for participating, and I'm going to answer her burning question. Now, she makes amazing baby kimonos, and they are so beautiful. Her images are great. She's based in Singapore, and her target audience is in the US and in Singapore and Malaysia. And so what I'm going to do is show you her site and tell you her burning question. Let's find her site here. So here we go. So here's her site. Let's get back to the home page. So here's her site right here. And it's, as I said, she has the most beautiful images. And so I've had a look through your site. And while I think there are a few things we need to change, what I'm going to say to you is that I don't think that user experience is the problem for you, is what's causing your conversion issue. I would say your site is basically clean. Your images are amazing. Everything's pretty straightforward. So I think that your issue is more a strategy issue. Now, guys, this conversion rate is below 1%, and it just shouldn't be. So we're going to go through, got some Google Analytics reports from Marjorie, and I'm going to show you her numbers and tell you what's important to look at and what I think she can do to change it. And then hopefully you can take that info and have a look at your own numbers. So let's just dive in and take a look here. So I made this really big. I asked for a couple of Google Analytics reports, and I got some screenshots. And so what I would say right off the bat here is there's some good news. So the first good news is your bounce rate, it's okay. It's in the acceptable range. Your time on site, 1:34, also in the acceptable range. Your number of pages per session, 3.5, so close to 4, also totally acceptable. Now, this report is audience overview behavior, new versus returning visitors. And this is the traffic for the year. And so it's a decent amount of traffic, but here's the first problem. And this is pretty common, something I'll look at right away. So the good news is the stats are okay. The user experience is okay. The bad news is you are not bringing people back to your website. So out of all your 22,000 visitors, only 3,800 of them have been to your site more than once. And this is where the problem starts, because it's just the way it is. People have to visit your site several times before they're convinced to make a purchase, in most cases. Now, WeSqueak, the magic number is right around 4 visits. So I know if I can get them back 4 times in a short time frame, that I increase my chances to 25% of getting a sale if I can bring them back 4 times. And so you're not even close, right? So I think that you have to take a look at this and see that this is pretty low-hanging fruit. So your conversion rate for new visitors is 0.34%. That's kind of sad. But let's look at your conversion rate for returning visitors. People who have visited your site more than once is 1.42. So that's 4 times as high. And so if you can bring more people back to your site, you're going to increase your conversion rate right away. Now, I think a good number to shoot for is 30%. Look for 30% returning visitors. So right now, you're at 15%. So you have a ways to go. Now let's talk about your next thing, which is I asked you to do a Geo report on this. And here's why I asked you to do that. It's because you are trying to sell in Singapore, and in the US. And I feel like maybe your resources are spread a little thin. So going right back to bringing people back. So I asked you to see all users, multi-session users, and then I wanted to see where they're coming from. And so again, good news and bad news. So the really good news is that if people that live in Singapore come back for more than one visit to your site, your conversion rate is 2.3. So your very best opportunity is to get people who live in Singapore to come back to your site. That's your very best. 38 sales, $3,400, so it's almost $100 a person. But again, you have got less than 20% of those people coming back. So if you can go ahead and make sure you focus your efforts on bringing people from Singapore back, you're way ahead of the game. Now, if we look at your US visitors, it's a bit of a different story. You're getting fewer than 10% of your US visitors back, even though the initial traffic you're getting is pretty even from Singapore. And so what that says to me is that on their first visit, although people might have liked your product, I mean, look at, they stayed, right? They might have liked your product, but there's something that they're seeing that's creating a barrier for them to convert. Because if you look at the number of people that come back from the US, it is, the conversion rate is only 1.41. So it's going to be harder to get those returning visitors from the US to come back. Now, in listening to you, and I don't know if this is true, but I know you've spent a lot of money, you're feeling a cash crunch. And so if you have a limited budget, your very best opportunity is to focus on Singapore. Get those people to your site the first time, get them back to your site. I mean, I know it's not a huge population, but I don't think you've even scratched the surface, if I'm being honest. So, interesting, right? So let's go back and let's look at the next report. Now, the next thing I asked you to do was I asked you to do a source medium report. And so why I like this report, acquisition, all traffic, source medium, I like this report because it tells you which sources, like which last click source gets you the best conversion. And so again, we have some good news. First of all, your products appeal to a wide audience. You're getting people from everywhere, so that's good. But again, bad news, I think you're spreading your resources too thin. We need to focus on what works and do more of that. And so let's talk about this source medium report. So the first thing is Google organic search. So here's really good news, right? You have people searching for your product. And in fact, when I did an incognito window and searched for baby kimonos, you came up 4th on the first page. So that's really good. So there's really good news. And the other good news is that brought in $5,000 of revenue for you. And so yay, 1.34 conversion rate. And so that's an area that you could focus on. Maybe Google AdWords just for Singapore is what I might do. So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing is your email is converting better than anything. I mean, your conversion rate for your email is 1.72%. It's brought in $3,000. But it's kind of good news and bad news. Because even though your email is converting well, it's only 990 visitors from email all year. And so that tells me a couple things. First thing is you might have a really tiny list. And if that's not the case, then you're not sending enough emails. You just don't have enough emails to get people back. And so I would say that that is where you need to focus. So 2 things you need to focus on. The first is your pop-up, gathering, lead generation. You need to kind of wake up every day and say, what can I do to get more emails? And so the pop-up, of course, is the low-hanging fruit. And if I look at your pop-up, I see a problem with it. The first thing is you've got all these beautiful images, but you don't have a very beautiful pop-up. And so I would just say, you don't need all this. You just need save 20% today, beautiful image in the background, and the sign up. That's all you need. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I don't think this tab in the corner is the very, it works very well. So I think if you cannot change it to a tab on the side, you need to switch to just do notes. You can get a tab on the side because that's the most effective. It converts way better. The other thing I would say is get savings isn't a strong enough call to action. You need to say, want to save 20% today. And then the third thing I would say is here you just want to say, get our deepest unadvertised discounts. You don't want to say save 20% because this sends people to their email. The pop-up gets them the code and keeps them on your site, but this sends them to your email. Now, I don't find Privy gives you the very best reporting for a pop-up, but what I would say to you is that you're looking for 7 to 9% conversion on the pop-up. So that means out of every 100 people who see it, you're looking for 7 to 9 or 10 to sign up. And then conversion on the back of the pop-up, which is the people who gave you their email address, then buy, you're actually looking, I would say, for 10 to 15% to go ahead and buy. So changing this tab, I think is going to help a lot because people often close down a pop-up, then they shop around, and then they go back to it. And right now, I don't think it's, you're not set up to do that as well as I'd like to see. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I need to see more mini campaigns from you. So I've been on your email list for a couple weeks, and I've seen one mini campaign, which is great. I love that you made that particular one from the Baby Kimono Company, because as a North American, I might have a little trouble remembering this name with name recognition. And so the Baby Kimono Company makes total sense to me. So I love that you did that. And I think that you need to do it every week. I don't think you're doing it every week. Doesn't need to be a sale, but you need to get in front of your list at least minimum once a week. Last thing is, are you collecting emails on Instagram? So hopefully you're using something like Linktree. You're offering the same 20% off so that you can get people to sign up on your list from Instagram too. So that's that. Now, a couple of things that you told me. One of the things was that in your retargeting, because I think that that's really important, you told me that you're actually retargeting purchaser lookalike audience. And I have to say to you that that particular audience, although it seems like it should be great, is not particularly great for me. I do much better with a lookalike web visitors audience. And so what I'd like you to do is try a lookalike web visitors audience with a twist. So I want you to only make an audience of lookalike web visitors from Singapore. If you want to make a separate one from the US, that's fine, but I don't want you to target those two people the same way. And if your resources are limited, I want you to spend all your money on Singapore. So that's the first thing. The second thing you said is that you have a retargeting campaign, retargeting add to carts and abandoned carts. And so I would say to you that when I looked at your dashboard, you only had 800 carts this year. And so that's too narrow. And I don't even do that. And I would have many more carts. So what I think you need to do is you need to set up dynamic product ads, stretch it out over 30 days, and you need to retarget everyone who's viewed a product on your site. And you know, if you set up a basic DPA through your product catalog, it's going to show people a carousel of what they've looked at on your site. It's actually really effective. And so I wouldn't get all fancy. I would just get a DPA up and start retargeting people to get them back and increase your conversions on your site. So just a very simple DPA is all the retargeting that you need to do. Don't limit it to add to cart or abandon cart. So now let's talk about the 3 things you need to do. So the first thing is you need to fix your pop-up. Okay, so we need to make sure the tab says save 20% today. You want to make it with a better image so it's prettier. You want to do that. I want you to wake up every day thinking about how you can make it better. So you might even A/B test it at some point. And I think the other thing you need to do is have it show on every visit. Now, I've been to your site a lot, and I've found that I'm not getting it every visit. So if the rules around it are only to show it every 2 or 3 times, don't do that. Make sure that it's available every visit for people. Don't give them any reason not to buy. That's number one. Number two is you've got to do a mini campaign every week. Doesn't have to be a sale, but I want you to get in front of your web visitors or your email list once a week, because that's the cheapest way for you to get traffic to your website that is the good traffic, right? It's the returning visitors. It's more likely to convert. So remember I told you 4 times in a short window for WeSqueak, you need to get them back 4 times. Your numbers could be different, but for me, I need to get them back 4 times. So you need to focus on getting those people back to your site. You know, reliable revenue is going to be really good for that. Now, the last thing is actually a problem on your site, and it's this. Let's see if I can find it. I thought I had it. Here it is. Okay. So this return policy, what's with that? It's like a total deal breaker. Particularly if I live in the US, it's a complete deal breaker. So what you're saying is that you will only return defective goods for a replacement. I think maybe you will give a refund, but I'm not sure. And so the big deal breaker here is exchange due to sizing is not allowed. Please refer to the size chart before making any purchase. So that's a total deal breaker. Right? People who are spending $50, $60, $70, $100 on your product, they're paying $7 to ship it halfway around the world, need the peace of mind that if it's the wrong size, you will fix it for them. And you're just saying flat out, sorry about your luck. And so I would like you to revisit this policy. This is definitely going to be a deal breaker for anyone who checks the site and lives far away from you. It's maybe a deal breaker for even people in Singapore. Nobody wants to spend money and end up with a product that they can't use. So I think that you could maybe do credit only, but I think that it's a very short-sighted to not allow a return of product. So I think you need to revisit that and make it right, actually. So what I want to leave you with is this. I think you have a decision to make. Sorry, I really do though. I think right now you're trying to fight a battle on 2 fronts, right? You are trying to get the US market and you're trying to get the market in Singapore. And so you're not getting the best return on your investment because your resources are spread so thin. So I think you need to make a decision about whether you're going to really win with the market in Singapore and focus hard on that until you get it how you want it. Or if you're going to continue to chase the US market, I think you have to do some things differently. So this is the decision. You're going to stop trying to market to the US and you're going to focus all your efforts on growing your business in Singapore. And that means your money and your time. That's the one thing. The second thing you want to do is if you want to catch that US market, you got to change this. That return policy isn't the only thing. What I'm suggesting that you do is you would have to completely duplicate your site, make it USA friendly. So things like you'd have to do fast flat rate shipping rather than saying international shipping US. I mean, you can say that it's coming from Singapore somewhere in the details, but really you can get it to them pretty fast, right? So fast flat rate shipping, $7 is fine. I know you can only do PayPal only, but again, you know, PayPal will eliminate some people, but most people are okay with it because you can always stick a credit card in PayPal, right? So I think it's way better to have a standalone USA site that accepts only PayPal than it is to send this message that, nah, it's international, it's coming from a long way. I think it's a huge barrier to conversion, and I think that your numbers reinforce that. So if you want to continue to market to the US, you got to duplicate that site and make it completely US friendly. You've got to focus hard on getting emails in the US audience too, and you probably just need a URL redirect on your sites, on the two of them, so that depending on where people are, they go to the appropriate site. Like Canadians can go to the US site, Malaysians will go to the Singapore site, or Australians will go to the Singapore site. Two currencies only, US and Singapore dollars. So easy peasy. Now you could consider shipping out of Texas, but I really think, I mean, I would be happy to connect you with our warehouse, but I really think all you need to do is to go ahead and try a US site on its own, if that's what you want to do. If it were me, and of course, I don't know all the facts, I would be inclined to focus on Singapore for the rest of the year, and sometime second, third quarter next year, focus on the US. But of course, you're going to make that decision yourself. So that's it. Thank you so much for sharing all this data with us and letting us, lift your skirt and show everything. I hope this was really helpful. Thank you for all your participation in the group. I can't wait to talk to you again. And if you have any questions, I know you will ask, right? Thanks so much. We'll see you all, guys. Don't forget, if you'd like me to have a look at your site, make sure you apply for the 15-minute feedback. We'll see you soon.